you're already recording.
Thanks, Mary. Must have done that when I. Anyway, um, so time to introduce our panelists. We have Mary Hudson representing the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association and the fish auction that takes place, sort of our first step in the supply chain. We have Sean McEwen here with Sea Salt, who was a seafood buyer. Lenny with Graffin Brothers, who is a seafood processor who is making these amazing value-added fish products that are making their way into cafeterias like Mike Flynn, who is our fourth and final panelist, who will speak to how he is incorporating seafood into his menu at RSU 12 schools. So we're gonna kind of like move through all four of these stages with a presentation from all four panelists, starting from the beginning with Mary and moving through to the end with Mike. Each panelist will have about 15 minutes to present. If you have pressing, clarifying questions, feel free to raise a hand, and we can make sure that those are addressed promptly. Otherwise, we do have a block of time for more discussion-based questions at the end of our panel. So with that, I'd love to pass it over to you, Mary, to talk to us about what a typical day looks like at the seafood auction, from boats landing to product leaving the building, and what your role is in facilitating that.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. So yeah, I guess I'll start off with, I have a lot of different roles. I'm very entrenched in the ground fish industry. So for those of you who don't know, ground fish is cod, haddock, pollock, hake, flounders, fish like that are all caught in aggregate. So at the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, I'm director of fisheries programs. That includes running our Fishermen Feeding Mainers program, which I can talk about a little further on. I am the sector manager at the Maine Coast Community Groundfish sector, which I'll go into a little bit. And then I also, as Leda mentioned, am the seller representative at the Portland Fish Exchange. And again, yes, like to reiterate, please pop in with questions. Groundfish can get very complicated and weedy. I'm going to try not to go too far into the weeds unless people ask me to. So I'll start with kind of my role as sector manager. The way that groundfish is managed federally, boats form essentially collectives and hire someone such as myself to manage the sector. So essentially, I'm helping them with like day-to-day operations, regulations, reporting. So kind of sometimes, especially for new boats, having to hold their hand because they have to, pre-trip notify before they go fishing so that they can potentially get selected for an observer. They have to declare correctly in their vessel monitoring system. They have to correctly report their landings after the trip. And the biggest part of that, I would say, is quota monitoring. For every pound of fish that a fisherman lands, they also have to have a pound of quota. Each permit in the fishery has a certain percentage of the total allowable catch for each stock, but no one permit has enough quota to actually fish as much as they'd like. So there's a trading market. It's kind of an open market system. So I manage their quota. If they need 10,000 more pounds of Gulf of Maine haddock, I try to shop that around and get them the best price possible.
Awesome. Yeah, so maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what actually happens in the auction itself, how prices are set, who's participating in the bidding.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have usually around 15 to 18 boats that are actively landing in Portland, landing groundfish in Portland. So they come in, they get offloaded by the auction staff. Everything gets sorted by species and market category, and it gets put into our online auction system. We have buyers from New Jersey to Maine. Again, Sean is on here. He's one of our buyers. And because this is an online auction, most of our buyers are participating remotely. Some of the local Portland buyers will come into the auction room and use our computers there. And some of the from away buyers hire a buyer representative who comes in and will buy for them and also grade the fish. So basically assessing the quality of it. So yeah, the auction starts. We always start off with large pollock, go to medium pollock, small pollock, large cod, et cetera, and go through the species that way, always with the largest market category starting off first. And the listings will be on there by lot sizes. So, if you have 10,000 pounds of large pollock on an auction, you're going to see some 300-pound lots, some 600-pound ones, some 900 pounds, et cetera. So the bidding starts. Again, it's all online, so they're just pressing a space bar to enter their bid. Whoever wins that bid then gets to select up to 10 lots that they want to take. And as a seller representative, I am representing the boats on the auction. So I'm deciding whether or not the prices that, or the bids that are winning are prices that I want to accept. So I have the option to either accept or deny. If I deny, they still have one more try to get me a better price for the lots that they took. If I deny it a second time, then I'm texting with them and I'm calling them during and after the auction and trying to make a deal. So lots of moving pieces kind of while we're doing it. It's a really, really volatile market, and I think Sean can speak to this as well. If we have any amount of volume coming in, it often will just totally drop the price. So it can be very tricky. And this happened, in February. This is the time of year where our boats are landing a ton of haddock. So I had a couple weeks ago, where there was probably 40,000 plus pounds of haddock on the auction. I denied at least 50% of the bids, was able to sell some after the auction, but then ended up buying most of it for the Fishermen Feeding Mainers program. So that's where my role as, leading that program is actually very beneficial for me as a seller, and that I can also kind of bail myself out, or bail the boats out, I should say, and buy the fish at a decent price. Instead of letting it go for $1 per pound, I'm able to do $1.50 per pound, while still trying to sell as much as possible.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the Fishermen Feeding Meaners program and how that works and supports the fishermen.
Yeah, so we came up with the Fishermen Feeding Maintenance program during the first year of COVID. When we were during lockdown, all the boats were tied up. Obviously, with restaurants closed, there was just absolutely no market for fish. So we were trying to figure out a way that we could get the boats going out and get them paid. And at the same time, we're seeing, of course, an increase in food insecurity around the state. So we decided to couple those two issues, secure some funding, to be able to give the boats like a floor price for the fish. We started off just buying pollock and hake because it was mostly our gillneters, and those are the species that they target mostly that we're wanting to go. So yeah, when the prices are low, I'm able to kind of set my floor. That varies day to day depending on what the market's doing, because I still have to, maintain my relationships with the buyers and want to be selling fish. So yeah, once that hits a certain price, I'll buy it for the program instead. We have local processors in Portland cutting the fish for us. And then that gets donated to food banks like Good Shepherd or Wayside Food Programs that obviously those then distribute it further. And then we do our school listings as well. So I think I got trying to think back from the haddock I bought, I distributed maybe 6,000 to 7,000 pounds filleted to schools just in February, which
That's
we
really
love
great.
doing that. I
That's
like to
awesome.
selfishly think of it as we're creating new markets for the future because the kids really love it. And that's something I'm sure Mike can talk to.
Yeah. Give me feedback. Thanks for sharing a little bit more about that program. Um, just a couple more questions. One is around logistics and quality. So we know that fish is a perishable product. How do you manage timing and quality and logistics to make sure that fish is staying fresh and moving quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all the way from the boat to when it hits the processor or the buyer. There's certain parts of it that, we don't have our hands in as much. But as far as like myself and the boats and the auction, like the majority of our boats that land in Maine, like are landing very high quality seafood. They're smaller boats. They're only going out for a day or a couple of days as opposed to some of the bigger boats in Massachusetts. They are very they all have their little different nuances with how they like to ice their fish, and how they place them in the hold. Sometimes they're putting them in the hold with layers of ice. Other times they have what we call exactics on the deck and they have their fish in a slurry. It all very much depends on the species, how long that boat's out, a bunch of different factors, whether it's winter or summer. But they're very, very keen on making sure they're icing correctly and handling the fish quickly. They're not on the deck for long, being gentle with them. Once it gets to the exchange, they're re-icing them. So that, the fish comes out of the hold. They're sorting it into totes and then re-icing all of the fish. Ideally, everything that goes on the auction was landed that morning. Sometimes it was the day before. If for some reason there's a longer delay, like someone comes in on Friday, we don't have Friday auctions, they have to wait for Monday. They usually will be re-icing over the weekend and tarping the fish as well. Um, and then, yeah, some of our buyers, particularly like from New York, if they're not able to get a truck up until the next day, they'll be asking us to re-ice at the exchange. And then from there, it's like fingers crossed, the reefer trucks are working. And then those fish are getting cut as quickly as possible. For the FFM program, we just freeze everything.
Hmm.
I tried in the beginning to do like fresh unfrozen fish distributions, and just like logistics of getting it, particularly to schools, was pretty much near impossible. But like getting the order out, getting the orders in, and then having people come pick them up in time.
Hmm.
So frozen is the easier way for us to go on the donation side.
Yeah, that makes sense. And who are those your typical buyers at the auction? You mentioned folks from New York. Like, are they restaurants or distributors, processors?
They're mostly distributors and processors. So we've got like some folks that, you know, buy whole, sell whole. But we definitely, especially locally, have a lot of people that are cutting the fish themselves and then selling it to restaurants. And it very much varies depending on the region, like what people are buying. Like most of our flat fish buyers are in New Bedford, a little bit of New Jersey, a little bit Long Island. Well, most of our hake and pollock buyers are New York buyers, and like most of our haddock is our main buyers.
Yes.
But yeah,
Well, that might be a good transition to move on to one of our buyers who's here. Unless, does anybody else have any clarifying questions for Mary? All right. Well, thank you, Mary. Please stay
thank
on the
you.
line so that we can get to discussion at the end. But appreciate you sharing this
Will
first
do.
link in the supply chain. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Sean with Sea Salt to talk about their process. What happens once the fish is purchased at auction?
Hi guys. Um, so I own Sea Salt Lobster in Saco, Maine. We are a distributor of live, fresh, and frozen seafood, both domestically and internationally. We have a presence at the PFE where we purchase ground fish and work with Mary on that. I am lucky enough to have a built-in fishmonger that works for me who's about 40 years in the industry. So Chuck McNeil, who I work with, does the day-to-day purchasing of ground fish, and we cut fish, we distribute whole fish, and I would say 80% of that is done domestically, although we do export a little bit. And yeah, and we also work with Lenny, who's on this call, to we cut some dabs or flounder and send them to Lenny, and then they're processed into fish sticks for the school districts. So we're happy with that partnership and working with Mary and the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association and the rest of those folks, Susan as well. And yeah, happy to answer any questions. And I'm working from home today, which is super rare, but kind of awesome.
Nice. I've got some questions, Sean. So one is,
Sure.
we hear that you purchase from the Fish Exchange in Portland. Are there other sources that you purchase from?
We do, yeah. We purchased a little bit in New Bedford, as well as Gloucester. And I don't know if you wanted this conversation to be specific about ground fish, but we're also obviously heavy in lobster purchasing
Mhm.
and other species as well. We have we have 9 full-time clam diggers, for example, that dig steamer clams locally for us, and they bring their harvest to our facility every day. Yep. So we're we're ex- you know we like the PFE because it's local. So the logistics is a big part of what we do, and
Mhm.
having the PFE in our backyard and knowing, Chuck's really good about knowing what the quality is probably going to look like from certain boats. And the tricky parts, well, there's about 100, are, you know as Mary said, the landings on certain species can increase dramatically at certain times of the year, but that doesn't necessarily align with, what's happening in the world. So, you're asking people to, eat large amounts of fish when it's snowing it's a rainy Tuesday in Toledo, Ohio. No one's, eating a ton of fish, or you want them to, but so um, we try to purchase double what we have sold. So we usually like to have 50% of it sold ahead of time, and then we'll double down on the rest. Yeah. And that's where the gambling starts.
Mhm. Yeah. And what do you do if you're in that situation? You've got um, a bunch of seafood that you're trying to find a market for. What are some of your like go-to strategies for selling that?
So it's a smile and dial approach, right?
Hmm.
We rely on our relationships with our current customers, whether they be lobster customers or just straight fish customers. And we work with them on the price. When you are in a situation where you've purchased too much, that's where the relationships with your buyers comes in really handy. And you're going essentially at that point on an open ticket. So you're asking them to be fair with you, but you're sending them, way more than they want. So
Hmm.
it can be challenging.
Yeah,
Yep.
I imagine plenty of negotiating happening there.
Right. And then the second part of that is depending on who's cutting the fish at our location. A lot of, these fish species need to be you need to be very well trained to cut these fish, and because we're working on such tight margins, yield is everything, right? So if you have a cutter that's extremely good, and then you are training someone and they leave, 3 points of percentage points on the table, that could be the whole deal. You've just worked for free. So yield has a lot to do with it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are some other challenges of the thousand that you said?
Oh yeah. Broken trucks, missed flights. Um, yeah, there's a lot of logistical issues
Yeah.
with our business and being here in New England, where have done what you can to purchase the fish, to pack the fish, to cut the fish, to drive the fish to Boston or New York, and then the flight gets bounced or delayed, and then you're, unpacking that, reprocessing it. Um, so that can be quite challenging. Or you feel like the quality is really good, but the customer may on their end not be happy with the quality, or they may have bought too much. So then you get pushback, and that's where credits come into play, where they're cutting your bill, um, and you're kind of working backwards at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah. it's not any easier in lobster. It's actually way harder. So fish was actually refreshing for us to deal with. Lobster, fish is already dead, right? So um,
Right.
live lobster is a whole other challenge set of challenges that we do on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Um, tell me what makes a relationship on either side of your middle of the supply chain position really work? What does a seller or a buyer do for you that makes that transaction really smooth?
I think just like any other relationship, it's having the ability to see the other person's position as well.
Mm,
And I I like to think that my customers understand that we have a business to run. There's expenses. We have to make money, right? So everyone along the supply chain, as long as they understand that, and that I think it's a lot like a marriage or a long-term relationship where you go through peaks and valleys, and once you live through really hard times, it makes it easier. But the biggest one, and this one's real, is cash flow,
mhm.
right? So the ability for the people to pay on time because we have to pay extremely quickly. And in the lobster world, we weigh and pay. So we're paying the harvester pretty much that day or within days, and we're extending terms for as long as 30 days, which turns into 45. And so
Oh
the
wow.
margins are already small, but the receivable side of it is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, no, that's great. We hear that a lot. Relationships are important.
Yeah, yeah. But we do find the quality at the PFE to be superior to certain areas that we buy in. Having that day boat ability to to resell day boat fish with a story attached to it definitely differentiates ourselves versus buying in Gloucester or New Bedford where there's 20,000 pounds of haddock coming in through the door or more. We do find that we can attach a little bit more of a story to it and it fits well with our brand to be able to sell locally.
Hmm. Yeah, what are you doing for marketing as a sort of an interim, as a buyer and a seller? I'm curious about how you tell that story on behalf of the folks that you're selling their product.
On the buy side, we're fairly well established. We've been doing this for quite some time. So those relationships are built and we like to think we have a good reputation. And again, we pay our bills. So that's a big part of it. On the sell side, it's forever changing. We use the traditional route of old school fishmongering where we get up in the morning and we're texting, we're calling, we utilize lots of different apps. We utilize WeChat and WhatsApp for international sales. We utilize regular texting. I use a text app called Hit 'em Up, which reaches as many people as I want it to into one group. They just don't know that they're each individually getting that. They're sort of BCC'd on the
Oh
text
yeah.
message. So we do that. As far as general marketing, not much. It's a focus for us in 26
Hmm.
where we're trying to enter into new markets. Um, we do traditional trade shows. Actually, Mary and I were both independently in Barcelona last year, and that's where we met. It's funny, two kids from Maine meeting in Spain, but um, that's where we met Mary last year and kind of started our relationship with her. And so we do the traditional trade shows, Boston, and then overseas we do Barcelona, Spain. But yeah, looking to enter into lots of different markets. We prior to the conflict in overseas, we were uh, looking to spend time and resources in the UAE. So the Dubai is a focus for us in 26. if things clear up a little bit.
Can I add to that?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Sorry, I also, for some reason, don't see where I can raise my hand. I would just double down on like the communication being such a huge thing. Like on my end, it's a lot of just like one-on-one shooting off texts, but like I know that I've got 6 boats out and I know what they're targeting. So that I'm like, okay, there's going to be probably 30,000 pounds of dabs coming in on Monday. It's Thursday now. Like I am constantly communicating with the buyers at the PFV what is coming in, particularly to our higher volume buyers, so that they know they can be getting their fish from Portland. The New Bedford and Gloucester auctions go off earlier in the day than us. So again, that like having the boats communicate with me and then me being able to communicate with the buyers and just have that good relationship so that then the buyers can go and communicate with their customers and be, trying to keep moving this along before the fish has even hit the dock.
That's a lot. It takes a lot of work to do all of that outreach and back and forth and with so many, all these different players. Yeah.
Luckily, like we all know each other so well and have worked with each other for a fair amount of time that it's like you can do pretty shorthand text. Like you don't have to be super formal about it or anything. So that helps.
Yeah. Hit him up. I haven't heard of that one before. It sounds really
That
useful for
was
you, Sean.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's actually used in the buying world in lobsters. So when you're a lobster dealer, you have relationships with individual boats, docks, wharfs, places. A wharf or a dock or a co-op would be a place where a harvester needs bait and fuel to be supplied with bait and fuel. And when they land at that dock, a dealer like myself will pick up the catch for the day. So depending on what's coming in, um, that's where Hit 'em Up comes in because I'll text my wharfs that I buy from, and then I'll panic when they all come back to me and tell me that they have X amount because I don't have room for it in my tanks,
Hmm.
and we don't have flights and things like that, or we have a major conflict overseas and we have no market. So that's where it gets really tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of things outside of your control.
right.
How many on your team at Sea Salt?
23.
Oh my. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Are they all based in Maine?
They are all based in Maine. We have 2 crews, one during the day, and then we have a crew that starts at night around 6. So during the day, there are, I guess, about 4 different components. The first one being purchasing and getting everything ready for a noon truck that we run to Boston that goes to the airport and to the other transfer stations in Boston. And then we have a truck that runs directly to New York around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then at 3 and 4 in the afternoon, we do a direct UPS and FedEx program for some direct to consumer, but mostly small restaurant chains, folks outside the country that want high quality seafood.
Yeah. That is so interesting and so different than the ag space, all this um air shipment. Super interesting.
Well, it's got to go, right? It's
Yeah,
we're
it's a
on a
highly perishable product.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sean, for shedding some light
Right.
on your portion of the supply chain. And yeah, like Mary, if you're able to stay on, that would be great. So we can get to questions after all of our panelists present. I'm gonna turn it over to Lenny. Lenny, if you want to share a little bit about your operation and if you're able to kind of pick it up from where you pick up from Sean, that would be great.
Absolutely. I went through your little guide you sent and got some stuff together, so I'll go through
Great.
all that. So, as you know, I'm Lenny. I've been in the seafood industry for almost 50 years. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces here today. Through all this program that we've been involved with, get to meet so many people across the state that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to, except for these events. My family fished for lobster on Cree Haven for many years. Some of us built boats, but most of us worked in the family fishing supply company that was called Rockland Boat for many years, almost 100. We sold Rockland Boat to Hamilton Marine when my daughter started to be born, so I could be a little bit more available as a dad. And I left Hamilton's after a few years to retire and be a stay-at-home dad. And then my wife's uncle passed away unexpectedly, and I was asked to come and join Graffin Brothers. And she is the third generation of Graffins to run Graffin Brothers, and we've been at it now 80 years as a total. We ship seafood across the country daily. Have become known for the products that we make from that seafood. Mostly chowders, crab cakes, and fish cakes, which is how we got into this current project with Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, Full Plates, Full Potential program. And the partnership has been what's made this whole program work. So one of the questions you had asked me was like, what is a typical day for me here? And this is kind of what happens here. Like this morning, I come in early and start lining up the requests for samplings, set up product production, and then see who calls out for the day, which is a challenge here. So I ended up making all the breakfast for the warmers out in the market. And then the cook called out for the catering division. So I went over and made catering for 30 Rotarians for lunchtime today. And this afternoon after this, I'll go restock coolers and fish cases, and then spend the rest of the afternoon doing orders to processors and different places for that. So it can be a very busy day. So what we have been doing lately for this program is we have been doing taste testings in various schools every month. Susan from Maine Coast and myself and Catherine have been traveled around the state with the fish tots. What this product is I build it as like a tater tot with fish in it. And the kids have been awesome about all of that. I really did not think that this would be a product that was going to take off quite as big as it has become. The schools have been fantastic to deal with. Some of them have culinary programs, and they've made different sauces and tested them and had contests. The kids themselves, I think we've run out of samples at just about every testing we've had. After the kids have tried the tots, they get to vote on a big board. They vote they liked it, they loved it, or it wasn't for me. And I believe Susan can confirm we have about an 80% approval rating, which really, has shocked me on that. And they've been really enthusiastic, and so is the school staff. They keep trying, they'll go around to the tables and ask the kids if they tried it. And if they haven't tried it, they've been very encouraging. It's like, just give it a try. Come on up and try it. If you don't like it, that's okay. And I have a blast doing it. I have to say that. Susan and I had a very good time doing that. So for the product, as you know, the product is, we're using the dabs, the flounder that Sean spoke about, and that starts at the auction. Sea Salt will fillet that for us and freeze it, which is great because it means we have some time to work with it before we have to use it. Our truck goes down and picks it up, and I'll cover towards the end of this a little bit what we do with that. Some of the logistical challenges we have with this, labor, of course, is a big problem. As I was mentioning this morning, we have call outs on a regular basis. So sometimes that can affect the production. Finding small scale processing equipment. We are currently, trying to find something that can form the fish cakes for us. Currently, we're doing them by hand. We were trying a couple of machines. We're going to have to try some others to see what we can find that will actually work to get the product the way we like it. We have some other stuff coming that I think will speed up the process a lot, because that's right now the handicap we're facing is we can't make it enough to meet the demand that we're facing right now, which is, everyone tells me is a good problem to have until you're laying awake at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out how you're going to get 1,000 fish tots made the next day. Getting distributors for the product. Initially, we hit a lot of resistance and hesitation on the product. But the tastings in the schools have driven up the schools to request it from the distributors. But the time it's taking to get into those is interesting, in that each distributor has different requirements and different forms and different, so each one is having to be handled individually. So to that, we've pretty much gone to self-distribution to start with here, just doing it ourselves, just to get the product to the schools. I may not have mentioned this product is specifically targeted for schools and institutions, those that are making use of the local food fund, so that we'll probably move on to a retail version later on, because there has become a demand for this. We've been very fortunate that we've had some very, very good publicity for this program. There was an amazing article by Penn Bay Pilot a few weeks ago when we did our Camden Hills tasting. And I'd like to add something on that, is that through all this, and I was up to the Ag Show in Augusta a number of weeks ago, there was a great chart of showing which schools are taking part in these programs. And my own area was a giant void. Nobody was using any of the programs. So we've come back, and now a lot of them are starting to investigate how they can make use of it. They've gotten some monkfish in, I know, at Camden Hills. They're looking at why they haven't been using the local food fund. So all kinds of fun things like that. I saw a floating hand by Mike. What does that mean?
Mike, did you have a?
Lenny, that's just showing gratitude to you and your efforts. Appreciate what you're doing.
I appreciate that, Mike. You've been great to work with on all this stuff.
Yeah.
So helpful.
Lenny, can I ask, what is it specifically about working with schools that has made it a positive experience compared to other buyers?
I really thought it was going to be a hard sell, truthfully. But all of the food directors, buyers, cafeteria managers, and representatives have just been so positive about it all. And then we've had the different agencies and programs that are out there trying to get food in schools that have come and joined us at the tastings, and some of them have never met each other, and then they start working together. So there's been a lot of increased networking that I have seen just happening, and because it seemed like there was a lot of different moving parts out there that weren't quite hooking up, and now they seem to be gathering together, which I think is great, because it'd be more of a focused effort.
Yeah, sorry, this is Susan. I just want to chime in and first of all, just say this has been such a fun partnership. Yesterday we had one of the main healthy eating active living coordinators join the sampling also. So that aspect is being worked into this too, which is kind of new and fun. We're looking at some ideas to market seafood to school athletes and highlight the nutritional benefits and work with the main health team on that. So as Lenny said, this project has just taken on all these different directions that we didn't even anticipate.
That is so neat.
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
It has been. It's been just, it's part of what keeps the energy up as well. That like we were talking, I was talking about some of the challenges we are, I don't know if we've gotten our certification yet for the local food fund. I thought we had it, and then it turned out we were missing some pieces. and I believe everything has now been submitted. I don't know. It's been a little hard to find all the pieces that we need to make sure that happens. So that's, there's a lot of people at Maine Coast Fishermen, Nina and Susan and Catherine. I can't remember Catherine's agency, but everyone's focusing in on that. And that's about it. The institutions, all the schools seem to understand what we're trying to do and have been very supportive about it. You want to know how the seafood actually moves through our part of the system in your questions there. And that's, I think I covered that. But sea salt gets it in, and then we get it from sea salt, and we turn it into the tots. What we do here for our production on that is we actually start out with Maine potatoes. That's what, we set out to make a mostly Maine product, and I believe the fish cakes and tots come at 92% Maine made product. So we have this marvelous machine that we got through the program for peeling potatoes. I did 70 pounds of potatoes in 9 minutes the other day, which was
Nice.
awesome. So we peel those up, we get them all cooked up, and we mash those into a nice, try to leave it some texture to it so it's not just a plain mashed potato, but it's got some bite to it. We take the flounder and the dabs and steam them and flake them apart into that mix. And I did want to mention I learned through Gulf of Maine research when I was down there for one of the meetings that the flounder and the dabs we're using, we're only catching 25% of what we're allowed to catch as an underutilized species, which is why Susan had suggested we look at this species. So, there's a lot more we can do with it and bring it in. After all we do that, we add carrots, steamed carrots, lemon juice, spices, and eggs. And then we let all that set for a little bit till it sets up. And then we just make it into fish tots and fish cakes. And they get breaded and then frozen in IQF, individual quality frozen, and then bagged up and boxed and delivered out. We are having trouble with freezer space because the freezer I thought would last us for several years. It has not. We maxed it out. So we're working on getting a bigger freezer so we can build some stock up in advance rather than try to make it to order.
Yeah, part of meeting that demand.
It is. So
We have a question coming in through the chat here,
Okay.
and maybe Lenny or Susan, you could address this question about how you decide what kind of value-added product will be a success for food service directors. If you want to take that one on.
In this case, Susan from Maine Coast Fishermen came to us because we already make a fish cake. This is a little different, but a fish cake is a very versatile product and freezes very well, can be heated up very quickly and cooked. In my case on other products is, we have this fish, what can it be? What is it going to taste good in that we can freeze and store and hold until it sells? So chowder is a good one, but a lot of people make chowder. There's chowder in the market all over the place. So it is also what's being missing out of the market.
Yeah. Susan, I'm seeing you come off mute. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so we did do, just to answer your question about like how we decide the product too, in addition to shelf stability and the species that we're trying to develop a market for, we did some surveys of school nutrition staff. Mike was one of the people who helped guide the product development. And we worked with 4 partner school districts through our Full Plates grant, who were our product development partner districts. So we did sampling with their staff and students, tweaked the recipe a little, sampled again, tweaked the recipe a little. And also the survey that we sent out collected information on like how you would serve it and what the size ought to be, what the components for the meal pattern requirements ought to be. So we did a fair amount of outreach to school directors and sampling with students to get the product where we want it to be.
Yeah, thanks for that context. Amy is also asking for the survey that you used, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, Susan. I am going to turn it over to Mike, our last panelist. Lenny, thank you so much for painting the picture of your part of the process. Mike, if you want to introduce yourself, and I will pull up your slides, and you can just tell me when to move on to the next.
Great. I'll just cut that light behind me. Hi, everyone. Really glad to be here. Really excited about this project. Thanks, Mary, for starting it off. It's been a pleasure working with you through the few years we've been doing this. Sean, great to meet you. I have a lot of passion for those folks that you work with. The first 10 years of my culinary career was sterning on a lobster boat before the restaurant opened. So I've hopefully done a good job, maybe got some lobsters to you over the years. So now I'm at my 40th year in kitchens. 15 years ago, Alita, we could probably start those slides to help me share at least the school approach for a chef. Again, 40 years in kitchens. The last 15, I've been working with child nutrition. So here's a little snapshot of how we think, particularly with the seafood project. And hopefully these slides will share with you how we acquire the ingredients, our strategies, marketing to the students. Will they eat it? Does it minimize waste? That's the big battle in schools are the kids may take it and place it on their tray, but us chefs will go check the trash can to see, that's our survey, our immediate information. And it's been working well. And I hope these slides share that with you. And then our production storing, we use classic brigade approach and this story a little bit is about before we met Lenny, before we met Susan, and what's now an even more efficient way, which is a value-added product for us. Alita, can you go to the next one, or do I have control? So for schools, 2010, I started. For me, it was about the partnerships from those that control my day, which are the superintendent, the board of directors. Do we have a good wellness plan in place for the district? And if all of that is happening, as a chef, things can happen in the lunchroom for us because our hands are relatively tied as a district if those folks aren't involved. And then the second component here is, our child nutrition programs in Maine and Alita's office with the school network, the Farm and Sea network. We've been expanding programs together, like the Harvest of the Month, which now Protein is it next month, Susan? You can jump in too, please, Susan, if you want, to help me facilitate this. School districts wellness plans were adopted, educators and staff are involved. Maine Ag in the Classroom is helping us get seafood into lesson plans. So if folks are involved, it really makes it a lot easier for us in the kitchens to take advantage of these opportunities and getting a better protein on the tray for the kids. I think we all would love to replace the bouncing chicken nugget with Lenny's tater tots, fish tots would be great. So 2018 to present, DOE partnered with the Fishermen's Association. They continue to expand the activities and support kitchen renovations so that we could be better equipped to do the best thing we can, whether it be bringing in Lenny's products or trying to make something because Lenny can't keep up with our demand, which is a good thing, right, Lenny? So in 2021, the local fish was the signature entree. That's this little celebratory moment for RSU 12 is they put fish as one of the signature ingredients, Maine harvested fish on a local food cooking competition. And at the end of these slides, you'll see maybe Alita can share some links to how we operate. Gulf of Maine Research Institute partnered with 8 districts in New England, and we were one of them. Portland Schools, Auburn Schools, Portsmouth, and we started doing work with Susan more closely. If you pass that one, Alita, if that helps. Here's something they helped us with is we were doing surveys on whether kids would like it or not. And this shows you myth 1, if you will. Peer-reviewed literature is lacking. Parents, caregivers influence kids' perceptions. Kids aren't eating enough seafood. So those were myths at the time of this research. Go ahead, Alita, thank you. Here's an example of those taste tests that Susan was referring to. Here, 83%, as Lenny mentioned, is the approval rating in one of those photos there. Go ahead and go to the next, please. This is where we are. We're somewhat coastal almost. Where Ulna and Whitefield are the closest towns to the coast. But when we started this seafood project, we weren't really consuming much. The largest menued item was a USDA supplied pollock, which fish stick, which is still being offered, but I think it's an Alaskan pollock. So it's traveled quite far to get to us. But now we're doing more of our own production and leaning on Lenny moving forward. Thank you, Alita. So here's myth 2, is fish difficult to prepare? Once you're comfortable with a raw product in school nutrition and or any childcare operation, I see there's one chef with us here today in Waterville area. Please jump on this conversation if you have any questions about production of fish. But here's myself and a co-chef at Whitefield School, and we're doing the production for the district's supply for the week. And the next slides will show you how we make it happen. So back to kind of like a school district building the plan is we're looking at our partnerships. And the reason I want to share this is if you can poke at your district that isn't participating, maybe share a little bit of this insight with them, is currently our wellness plan, that's a district-wide mandate, needs us to move forward in this area. The teachers know this. We have a program called Learning Commons, which is virtually the library, where we are partnered with the librarians, where they see all the kids throughout the week. And Susan, Lenny, and I could go in there and share the story with them. And we bring posters from Susan's office about the fishermen that Mary works with closely. And we tell their story as well as share with them some tastings and find a way to get their buy-in before we menu it so that it's successful. The kitchen team's design, the workflow and record system is streamlined when we use this approach. And then of course our external partnerships are very important for us. Thanks, Alita. Here's kind of a snapshot of how we're getting the fish. Again, Mary's office worked with DOE and Full Plate, Full Potential to make this happen. So grateful for this, Mary. We can't believe how successful it's been when our price points on the tray has benefited through this program. So here's our school van that Full Plates supplied us with a few years ago through a grant. And immediately we started hitting Portland Pier to pick up the fish. That's the center photo. And that's when it began. And on the far right is the photo of the van hauling back the 10-pound frozen fish increments. Great, Alina. We can hit the next one. So there's Lenny giving me my first, that's the first visit going to Graffin Brothers. So thanks, Susan and Lenny, for inviting me there. I can't remember the gentleman's name that's with you in that photo. But that kind of shows you how we started the project. I think Lenny's handing me the first tots and or cakes that I brought back for a tasting for one of the Learning Commons groups.
Mike, that's Ben Martens, our ED.
Thank you.
No problem.
That's Ben, okay. Sorry, Ben, if you're with us today.
I won't tell him.
So again, before we met Lenny, this was our approach, and this is still our approach when we acquired the Fisherman Feeding Mainers project. Here's 400 pounds that showed up. I think it was 200. So we'll prep in an organized fashion for the school. As you can see on the left, we do step one, kitchen setup, keeping it simple. The recipe is simple for us. We just do a basic crusted fish that seems to be popular for this initial start, I guess. And that recipe is posted on DOE's local food recipe database now. So they've customized it so other districts can borrow that approach. So for us chefs, we do a one hand wet, one hand dry, and start breading. So you can hit the next one, Alita, please. And there's the finished product going on the trays. Uniform trays. We do 6x6 for 36 or something else, but we always make sure a tray is what it is, so that when we're pulling it for later use from the freezer, we know exactly what we're doing. And hopefully we'll bake it at the same temperature. And in every school and every oven, as other chefs will say, is a little different. So you want to customize your own approach for your best end result. So you don't want overcook and of course undercook. In this slide on the right, we realized we were putting the seasonings in the oil and it would drop to the bottom. So now we put it right in the crumb so that it distributes through the fillet a little bit better. Thanks, Alita. So there's some of the supply. We had, like I say, 36 by 36. We've been yielding 3 to 4 portions per pound. Monkfish is about 3 per pound for our need for schools, which is neat. We've tried that in a few ways with the same recipe. So believe it or not, even the flakier fishes, the monkfish will bread very nicely too, as long as you take the membrane out so it doesn't curl on you. All right, the next one, Alita, please. Here's a little bit of what Learning Commons does. That top left is how we decorate Learning Commons area, where we were doing some fisherman stew. And we had, I think that was harvest of the month was fish. And we also celebrated the potato, which was the month before. So what we do at school is we'll put that set up so the kids will start asking questions after breakfast. So it's a little bit of marketing. We don't give them all the information. And then at lunchtime, we'll give it all to them so that they keeping them curious before mealtime is perfect. They'll lean in a little bit better for us. We've done a little bit of work with Bigelow Labs as well with the kids. They've been doing seaweed growing. The kids are making pico de gallo in this kitchen at Whitefield to match with the baked fish the next day, which was a taco. And some braised spinach from Peak Season, who's our local food supplier. And there's my replacement chef on the left. He's about 6th grade right now, so we'll keep working. And next one's great. Alita, thanks. So here's kind of a list of who we stay connected with. And feel free to grab that. I think we're RSU 12's got a little bit of participation behind the scenes in most of these groups with our nutrition and wellness team. But that's what I have. How's that, Alita? Was that what you wanted?
That was perfect. Thank you, Mike. Great pictures in there. Let me get us back as a group here, and we've got 10 minutes for open questions. If folks have any questions that they want to put to our panelists.
I'll to my video. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been really great to learn more about all of your different roles and how they connect. Lenny, I guess I was just curious about for the shaping the tots, like you're doing them by hand, and maybe you'll find, like you said, a machine or some way. Have you considered, or would it even be possible to s- like make the mix for the tots and then have the schools shape them? Has that come across your mind to like kind of share out some of that prep work? It
Yeah,
probably has, but what do you think?
yeah.
Curious.
We actually have three versions of the product. We have the 4-ounce fish cake, and then we have the 1-ounce fish tot, and then we have a 2-pound fish mix in a bag that doesn't have any egg in it yet or breading.
Okay.
So it is a completely cooked product that you could, make a stuffing out of for like an empanada or something like that. I know some people have made hash out of it. That one we haven't pushed a lot just yet. But we did just last week, I think we found a meatball making piece of equipment that will make the 32 millimeter size that I need. So I have high hopes that will help out a lot for this. But yes, right now it's all being done by hand. And this time of year, what made this project work is I have extra staff that I try to keep employed during the wintertime because they're good staff and I want to keep them. So this project allows them to have something to do in the wintertime. And then in summertime, we'll switch back over to our regular, operations. So does that answer the question?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And sorry if I missed those three different options.
No,
If you'd had
I forgot to mention
it.
it. Operating on
Okay.
2 hours of sleep didn't cross my mind.
No, that's great. And good luck with the meatball maker. That sounds great.
I have high hopes.
Yeah, that sounds promising. And thanks for being here, Lenny. You're a hero after your Frisbee golf vacation. Other questions?
Jasmine, were you going to jump in before? Or I
So
thought I
I
saw
guess not necessarily a question, but more of a comment is I was able to meet Alita at a recent wellness conference. And so I am in child nutrition, but not in a like Department of Education standpoint. I'm in through a community action program for early childhood for ages birth to 5. So joined in this discussion here to kind of get ideas on if I can implement all these things into our version of what child nutrition looks like, which is quite a bit different than the public school system. So I think I'll bounce some ideas probably off of my finance team, how that works for us to be able to purchase from places like this if we can. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from, I guess, is more of a comment than a question. So.
Jasmine, this is Mary. If you're looking to get some fish in to like be trying things out, to start with, I can get you access to free fish through Fisherman Feeding Mainers.
So that actually, I think I've heard of this. So yes, please. Yes,
Yeah.
please. Should I email you?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Jasmine, you're in Waterville, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mary, do you have distribution up there, or would Jasmine have to come down to Portland for that at this point?
Well, I might lean on Mike for this because Mike's been helpful in the past for people that are further north where he'll pick up so they only have to go down to Whitefield and not to Portland.
Yeah, happy to help, Jasmine. We're we could bring fish all the way to Palermo, which might be closest to you. And we have
Yeah.
space as you decide to order, and we can connect. I'll
Yes. Yes. So let me actually, if you don't mind putting your email as well, so I can stay in touch with you.
Jasmine, this is Susan. Just also, if you need any support in what to do with the fish, we have a lot of instructional videos and recipes on our website, and you can also reach out directly to me. My email is the same as Mary, but Susan with all the same ending, and I'm happy to point you to where all of those are. We also do trainings for nutrition staff that are open to anyone. And so I can let you know, when those are coming up, in case that's something that you want to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause I've been here for 8 years, but only in the last month have I taken over as supervisor to where like I'm doing the menu planning and all the purchasing. And I think shopping local and having that local Maine fish option would be just spectacular for us if it's an option. So yeah.
Thanks for being here, Jasmine. And sounds like there's a team to support you in making this happen, which is great.
I'd
Lizzie,
love to throw in another question unless someone else has something.
I don't think so.
Uh,
You should go for it.
okay, cool. So I work for Healthy Acadia and we run the Down East Gleaning Initiative. And so we do a lot of gleaning, but really primarily fruits and vegetables from farms. And I just wanted to put it out there. Maybe this is sort of a Sean or Mary question, but perhaps anyone being interested in the food assistance space. And you had mentioned too, Sean, about how like markets sometimes get cut off because of things like, you know, geopolitical issues and problems abroad and et cetera, et cetera. So given that the seafood market is so international and, you know, is privy to fluctuations and things, it's not the goal of your businesses to be donating things, but where might there be moments or what is your experience as far as potential moments where nonprofit organizations say could be contacted to be sort of like a gleaning party to get protein into the food assistance networks of Maine? Is that something that you ever encounter or maybe have networks for, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I definitely think there's an opportunity to increase, I guess. I'm just trying to think of the best way to communicate that. I mean, I what first comes to mind are products that are going to, you know, potentially expire within, you know, 6 or 7 months that are already frozen. Typically, our frozen products last 18 months, but once they get towards, you know, that 6 month window, we're looking to either discount things significantly and or, you know, move them down the line so they don't take up freezer space. I don't know if that answers your question, but certainly, you know, as a company, we're also more than willing to help out where we can.
Yeah, and
Okay. Yeah, oh, go ahead, Mary. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, on our end, we're, you know, obviously very different in that we're a nonprofit. And so the Fishermen Feeding Mainers is just me buying as needed to help our boats out and then moving that. And we certainly do have times where I'm like I have, luckily not in the last year, but at one point I was like having to call the Greater Boston Food Bank because our processors were like sitting on 15,000 pounds of filleted fish that like I couldn't find enough home for in Maine. And so, yeah, there it just, you know, depends on kind of what the guys are landing and the time of year. We certainly do a ton of purchasing of like dabs in the fall because after Labor Day, prices just tank. So there's definitely like surges of us having free product available for organizations.
Yeah, Mary, I
Okay.
think of your program as being like the gleaning equivalent of of the ag space. It's like it is taking
actually-
fish that doesn't have a market and giving it a second chance.
Yeah, I'm actually completely unfamiliar with gleaning in this context as a term. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, Lucy, do you want to
Well, you might. Oh,
talk
yeah,
to your
I was just
program a little
saying you might explore it a little in your, future narratives
Yeah.
and work that you do. But it's yeah, it's an interesting word. It's kind of a really old concept, really. In the Old Testament, there are even like old laws about folks sharing a portion of their field or 1/16th of their fruit tree and just leaving the harvest there. I think it's similarly like a 16th or a 1/32nd of a field for, in the real olden days, like orphans and widows and people who are just, without land to farm. So it's a pretty old concept. And then in today's age, with our larger scale systems, as we all know, there's always, food is falling through the cracks here and there. Farmers are doing their best. There's seconds or thirds sometimes that aren't getting used in other processed ways. So at Healthy Acadia, we mostly have relationships with local farms and do kind of like a cleanup harvest in the field, and then directly bring that to food pantries or store it in, refrigerated sheds, and then food pantries come and pick up. So there's quite a bit of work, like Boston Area Gleaners is a kind of well-known group. But that's it in the fruit and veg space. So maybe you already are doing it, as Ilita mentioned, Mary, in the seafood space, which is great. And I just, yeah, wanted to throw that question out because it felt like maybe it could help just like in the event, and because it happens, getting food to folks when they need. And proteins, I will just say too, I ask because up here in Washington County, where I work, I see that sometimes proteins are one of the more difficult food groups to get consistently into the pantries. So seafood being an industry here, just thinking about connections that could support families who do use the food pantries.
Beautiful. Mike, do you want to close us out? I'm noticing we are 1 minute over time.
Oh, sorry. Lucy, great caption on that. In Lincoln County, there's gleaning projects, and we benefit, particularly the first of the school year, from their gleaning programs. So, maybe there's a mystery basket of product, which is wonderful for a chef, but it's beautifully locally grown. And we utilize it as a nonprofit for the school district when it arises. So just thought I'd add that in there. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Mike. All right, everyone. Well, we are at time. I want to first and foremost thank our panelists for being here today to share your experiences across the supply chain and seafood. I think there's a lot to learn from, and it's certainly, I think, in my experience anyway, a black box for people who are mostly in the ag space to get a picture into this auction and flying fish across the country. And so really appreciate all of your time and expertise here today. Thank you, everyone else, for coming and sharing your questions and ideas. I just dropped into the chat. If you want to register for our upcoming webinars, there's a link in there to do that. And everyone should go eat their lunch outside, enjoy this beautiful day, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you. Bye.